We believe living life as a Christian is the most difficult thing we can do on this earth.
We exist to be honest about our struggles and provide biblical solutions to everyday issues. Welcome to the pod.
Welcome to the pod.
Let's go.
We are on episode 3 of the podcast. We're super excited. We have an honorable guest, Miss Alyssa Nerger. Alyssa, can you tell the people who you are, what you do, why you choose to hang out with us, or why you're forced to hang out with us?
Oh, man. Well, my name's Alyssa Nerger, and I am the youth director at Pure Heart at Heart Youth, and love what I do. Dream job, honestly. Dream team. Love hanging out with John, Ryan, Aaron, Ben. Awesome team. But yeah, I got asked to do this podcast today, so I'm excited.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I get to talk about relationships.
Relationships.
Yeah.
Let's go with the heart sweater.
I know.
Come on. Let's go.
Valentine's Day heart sweater.
It is Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
In the studio.
Yep.
In the stew. So we're we're fitted for the affair.
Yep.
Me
Ben
too.
and I are really fitted for the affair.
But it is actual
just
Valentine's
the same
Day,
outfit.
so.
It is actually, when we're recording that, we don't know when we're going to release this yet, but as we're recording, it is currently February 14th. So That's hype. Well, if you've seen our podcast before, which it's fine if you haven't, we start with Tiny Talk. And so what Tiny Talk is just a way to kind of get engaged in a conversation. So we want to ask you, as our guest, you can answer this first. What is the worst date you've ever been on?
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I haven't been on like a lot of dates, but one in particular, I was driving someone else's truck, not my truck. Shout out to Don Eddie, actually.
Don.
Thanks for letting me borrow your truck for my dates. And it was during COVID, so there wasn't as many people out on the road. Did not realize that I sped past 2 cop cars, and I got pulled over while my date was in the passenger seat.
No.
And never been pulled over before. Of course, it's not even my car. So he pulls me over and he was like, "Do you have any idea how fast you were going?" I was like, "Nope, and this isn't my car." Like blurted it out, and he's like, "Whose car is this?" And so I was like, "I promise." He's letting me borrow it.
I didn't steal it. I promise.
Didn't steal it.
I promise. Please.
Gave him my license. Gave him Don's name. I got let off. I was good.
Wow.
But yeah, that was on a date, and so I got to tell that story to them when I dropped off the truck.
How was the rest of the date?
Well, that relationship didn't work out. So,
obviously.
Yeah, the date itself wasn't like a bad date. That just was like not a great part of the date. So, and then after that, it wasn't like.
Where do you go after that? Like, what do you?
I literally took the truck back to the Eddies, and then that was it. that was the date. So, yeah.
Wow. That's funny.
You wanna go?
All right. Well, my worst date story it wasn't a bad date. And I haven't gone on many dates before besides just my current girlfriend, Riley Mang.
Shout out.
Riley.
Shout out. Anyways, it was one of our first dates.
Mm-hmm.
It was technically would have been our second. And we went roller skating. Mm-hmm. And I am not a very coordinated person. And so I was really bad at it, and I kept falling. And it was the most embarrassing thing because this little 6-year-old kept laughing us around, laughing at me, like the whole time. And I was one of our first dates. Like, I've known Riley for a good time before that, but it was like an official thing. It was like our first time, like, really, like, acting like a couple or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was really embarrassing because I kept falling, and I stayed on the wall. Like, I couldn't even learn how to like push myself, so I stayed on the wall and just dragged myself the whole time.
That's
and
so funny.
It was fun hanging out with her, but that far sucked.
Let's go. That's funny.
That's
Dude,
good.
on the first date I took Sam on. Shout out Sam. She's not dead.
Rest in peace.
Oh.
We're so scatterbrained today, bro. So I took her to. I was like, hey, because I was really nervous, and this was before we started dating. I was like, hey, and I had never gone out on like nice dates before, so I was like, do you like steak? And she's like, yeah, like I like steak. And so then I was like, okay, you want to go to Texas Roadhouse? And so I took her to Texas Roadhouse because I was like, I don't know any steak places. And honestly, I probably can't afford any steak places. So, because at that point I wasn't even hired here. I was selling clothes on the side to like make some money to support my
Your endeavors.
coffee addiction. And so we went to Texas Roadhouse and then went to Humboldt Mountain and just hammocked at night, and it was cool.
That's so
and so now we go to Texas Roadhouse whenever we go. We're like, oh, this is like our first date.
Oh, cute.
So yeah, it was really funny. And then she fell asleep in the car on the way back. So
Really?
yeah, she passed out. She was like,
On the first
she was
date?
gone. Yeah, she was like, she wasn't snoring, but she was like, like just breathing really heavy. So I'm like, I think she's asleep.
She has problem breathing. She's like.
What?
Oh my
Some
God.
people have problem breathing in sleep. I'm one of those
Oh,
people.
okay. That's so funny. Holy cow. Okay. Terrible transition. Would you like to give us a fit check, Alyssa? You can start from the top down, bottom up.
All
whatever you
right.
wanna do.
So I got actually these earrings specifically for Valentine's
Come
Day.
on.
They are heart earrings, and it was actually a date in Flagstaff recently with my current boyfriend.
Hey.
I got these.
Hard
I
launch
know,
it. Hard
I
launch
know.
it.
So hard launching that. Got my Valentine's Day sweater from Shein.
Nice.
Shein
Jeans from H&M and boots. Don't know if you can see them, but they are from Target.
Nice. Target's been
Let's go.
dropping some nice
Yeah.
stuff. Also,
Yeah.
the Shein sweater, like I wasn't expecting Shein to have that because
Yeah.
that looks more high quality than.
I have gotten so many compliments on this sweater
Yeah.
today.
That's sick.
So many people I've interacted with, I've gotten so many compliments.
That's sick.
So I'm proud.
That's
Wow.
dope.
Yeah.
All right, Ben.
Let's
Get
go.
on with it.
All right. Top starting. This University of Michigan,
Mhm.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah, Michigan. I thrifted it.
Nice. We can't
That's
talk
really it?
anymore, by the way.
I'm not a Michigan fan.
Okay,
I
but we
just
can
like
talk
the
again.
colors.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty hype.
Black pants, black jeans that I thrifted.
Nice.
And then these Adidas forums that Riley got me for our 1-year anniversary.
Shout out.
Nice.
Riley.
/ my birthday.
Very
Shout out.
nice.
Shout out, Riley.
Okay, Riley.
Shout out. Rest in peace.
Okay, so I've got an urban. Oh, I've got a UR Kama hat on. I've got a Urban Outfitters zip-up hoodie on. I love this hoodie. I wear this hoodie all the time. I got it for Christmas this year. And then I got Carhartt, regular cargo pants on. And then I got white Carmine 6s on. Shout out Sam. She got me those for my birthday last year.
Dude, she got me for my
Dude,
birthday.
that's so good.
You know,
and Diego got you earrings.
wow.
Come on.
Everyone's just
We're just
fun.
wearing gifts.
You know, I asked Riley out to be my girlfriend, like officially on
Yeah.
my birthday, so I wouldn't forget.
Nice.
Like easily, I always know.
So that you get 2 presents on your birthday for
Well,
birthday and anniversary, or you guys
yeah,
combine them?
a little bit. Like we kind of separate it now to where like
Nice.
one day we'll celebrate my birthday and the
Nice.
other. But it's always nice to know. Like I'll always remember when I asked her to be my. Because you see like
Unless you forget
70-year-old.
when your birthday is.
That's not good.
That's funny. Dude, okay, well, I think the cool part, and the reason we want to talk about relationships and have people on that are in different seasons,
Yeah.
just so we can learn from different people. And so, Ben, you've been in a long-term relationship, and it's been long distance for like 6 months now.
Yeah.
So you've just had to be really really proactive
Yeah.
about your relationship.
100%.
Alyssa, you have just got into a relationship.
Fairly new, yes.
Let's go. So
know.
you're just starting out. You guys have been dating for how long?
Officially, it'll be 2 months, February 19th.
Awesome.
And then we've been like dating since October.
Awesome.
So,
Let's go.
yeah.
Sweet.
Amazing.
I know.
And then I'm engaged, so I'm gonna be
Woo.
married next month, which is crazy to think
So
about.
fun.
Hopefully,
Hopefully, yes.
if things go according to plan.
If everything
Oh,
goes,
gosh.
everything goes
believing-
according to plan, I don't screw it up too much. I will be married by next month, and so
You
I think it's cool because we get to talk about 3 different stages of relationships and talk about where we're all coming from, what we're bringing into relationships, what
Yeah.
we're learning
Yeah.
from our relationships. So that kind of jumps into our first question: what has God taught you in your relationship? So Alyssa, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think for me is that hard conversations are really healthy.
Yeah.
It is okay to have hard conversations, and it is good to have hard conversations. And that could be about anything. That could be about morals, opinions, beliefs, God, boundaries, purity, like you name it. Any of those could honestly be something hard to talk about.
Yeah.
But the earlier on that you're able to communicate and talk about those things, the better it is for your guys' relationship and for healthy communication in the future. Because you want to be on the same page, you know? You want to be able to talk about those things and it be normal. I think one thing that we have to keep in mind is that, say, like, someone were to bring up a hard thing to talk about, you know, like, we have to be open to being receptive to what they say, right? And it's just, like, it's so important to be able to, like I said, be on the same page. If your significant other isn't willing to talk about the hard stuff, then they are not willing to grow.
Yeah.
Wow. Say that again.
You guys aren't going to grow as a couple. You're not going to grow as an individual if you're not willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
And you can't shut it down if someone brings something up. Even if you're like, hey, you said this and that kind of hurt me. That kind of hurt my feelings. Like, don't, like, walk away from that. Like, listen. Be attentive to what they have to say.
That's good.
There's a lot of hard things to talk about, but we have to be receptive. We have to be willing to talk about it, and you will grow in that, and that'll be so much better for your future and for the growth of your guys' relationship.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the disposition, too, for us is to want to cater to our own needs, of course, because we're sinful people. We're selfish people. If we're being honest, we care about it. Takes an extra amounts of faith, extra way to step out to not be selfish.
Yeah.
Because we think about our own needs, and so whenever somebody comes out to you and says, "Hey, we've had this issue," I think the issue that so many people face in relationships is that they're so quick to be like, "Well, I deal with, like, defensiveness."
Oh yeah.
I'm like, "Well, I didn't mean it like that." Well, I didn't, and just defensiveness, which ultimately does not help at all, really. And so that's something that, like, Sam and I have, like, learned to be receptive to conversations like that. Being able to have open communication is just really, really important. And I love what you said. If somebody's not willing to have open communication or talk about the hard things, they don't want to grow. They don't want to grow in their relationship. They don't want to learn from, because here's the thing, you're going to fail in your relationship. There have been so many times that I failed in my relationship, and relationships in the past that I've that you can use it as a burden, use it as something that you have to carry around, or you can use it to learn as you go into the next relationship, or as you continue in your relationship with the person that you're dating, or, you know, hopefully getting married to. So
that's super good. And that's one thing that me and Riley have talked a lot about, and what we were kind of talking about last night was how I'm a big, like, sweep it under the rug guy that's just forgive each other and move on. Like, I could just, like, forget about it. But she's a super big, I need to hear every detail. I need to, or I need to know everything. We need to talk through every little part of it, like why this happened or whatever. And good and bad things too. Like, even if something super good happened, she wants to hear every single little detail. But I'm kind of like, okay, well, we're done now, sort of, in a kind of way. And
you're a dude.
That's how guys are built. Seriously, that's how guys are built, man.
Yeah.
We're just like, we'll forgive you if you forgive us.
No worries.
And I think about it for like 20 years. So.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one thing that we've had to talk through, especially as a long distance couple. We kind of need to have really good communication and be like what John was saying earlier, proactive in that, and ultimately, like, you hear kind of every, like, relationship, most relationships always end due to communication problems. And you always hear, oh, we just weren't connecting, or we just didn't have good enough conversations, or whatever, like silly little things. But it always, like, the background to every breakup in my eyes is always bad communication. And it's always not being 100% honest with one another, or hiding certain things, or whatever it may look like. It's always like, that's the fault to break up a relationship. And I think when being in a relationship or going into marriage, or just talking to someone, is just being always honest with them and always communicating, and just let them get to know the true you.
Yeah.
instead of trying to fake something and then
Yeah.
later on you have to lie about certain parts of yourself
that's
because
good.
you lied in the beginning or whatever.
It's good.
That's good. Yeah. Where do you guys feel like you've messed up? And because we're not perfect, obviously we're inherently sinful people. So where do you guys feel like you've messed up in relationships that you guys have had, either in the past, in your current relationship, or just anything in between?
Yeah, I would say for me, well, one, my boyfriend Diego is very just like affectionate and romantic, and like I've never questioned how much he's liked me or thought that like I'm beautiful, and he's very vocal about that, and it's like he's such a huge answer to prayer in so many ways. But one thing that I have not done a good job at is showing that affection towards him, and he's actually questioned how much I like him even though we're in a relationship together. And so in the beginning of our relationship, I actually had a lot of like just some anxiety with it. I was really struggling just because like my future's on the line. I'm kind of at an age where it's like, okay, I'm leaning towards wanting to marry someone, right? And you know, obviously nothing's wrong with having anxiety or anything like that, but because of my anxiety, I was really like just making him even more anxious because of it. And so and really I really liked him. He did nothing wrong, he's done nothing wrong, but he questioned it because I was not vocal like he was towards me. I was not affectionate. And so one thing that I would just like one encourage girls first is that yes, wait for a guy that will 100% pursue you and love you and value you, right? But also girls, like guys need that too. Like guys need that affirmation and that affection just as much as we do. And like of course we desire that as women, and we pray for that. We want that, right? But it's not just us in the relationship, right? Like it's also the guy. And so being able to show that like love for him is just so important, and I would never want him to question, you know, how much I love him. And so that was just something that, you know, not that it was like a crazy mess up, but I have learned from it, and I've learned that like a guy like also like needs that affirmation, and nothing's wrong with that, you know, like we both need that in a relationship. So
That's good.
100%.
I think there have been so many times where I've just taken a passive view of my relationship. With Sam, there have been times where, as the guy, and I believe wholeheartedly that the guy is supposed to lead the relationship. I know that what the word says. I know what I just know, and it's been modeled for me so well by so many different people. And I just know that like men are supposed to be the leaders of the household. Not saying that women can't lead. Not saying that women have a diminished value in the household at all. But men are supposed to step up and take lead of it. And so I've been very passive at certain points in Sam and I's relationship, and it's something that I've had to apologize for. Like, man, I'm sorry that I haven't been what I like said about you guys, proactive about our relationship, trying to be take one step forward, try and lead it out, because at the end of the day, men, like I will be the spiritual head of my house. I will be the person that's like taking care of the spiritual health of my household. And if I'm not doing it now, when am I going to learn to do it? And so I think there's so many times where maybe in the next generation, or where I specifically have looked at my relationship and been like, I don't have to take it seriously now, but when I get to this point, I'm going to have to take it seriously. And so I was like, man, well, once we hit 6 months, once we hit a year, once we get engaged, once we get married, all these things. And I've just realized, man, I've been passive for a long time. And so, learning to lead actively, and learning to really take an active view of my relationship. Be like, I'm the one that's not that God's holding it all together. And there have been so many times where I've screwed up and Sam could have broken up with me, but man, the Holy Spirit, God is good, and but I think taking an active view to your relationship, no matter where you're at in the relationship. So if you're a high school guy watching this and you're pursuing a girl, man, be active about that. Be active about that pursuit. Never stop dating her. Once you get her to be your girlfriend, you don't just stop there. So be active about it.
Yeah. And that's super good. And kind of bouncing off that a little bit, especially because Riley and I started dating at the end of my junior year of high school. So we were dating when we were both 16 years old. We were both really young. And I think there was a little bit of a learning curve for me to where I think a lot of, especially high school boys, don't take it not seriously, but being a spiritual leader or always pushing your girlfriend, and hopefully your girlfriend pushes you too. It's not just a one-sided thing.
Yep.
To get in the Word, to talk about Jesus together, that
That's
always pray together.
Yeah.
Make sure that Christ is the center, because I think in high school it's so easy to get wrapped up in just like almost the high school romantic side of things, to be like, oh, like, is he gonna talk to me in the hallway, or like silly stuff like that?
Is he gonna hug me before my parents pick
like,
me up?
are they going to prom with me or whatever?
Yeah.
Like just silly stuff like that, instead of taking the spirituality side of it seriously. And I do think that was like it took me a while to learn how to do that, and especially as young men and young women, it does take time, because you are so young. And that's where I would encourage people, like, look at like what you were talking about. You had great examples of relationships. Look at different older people who maybe your mentors or leaders that have a good relationships. Like you could look at John and Sam's relationship, Brian and Aaron's relationship, Alyssa's relationship, all these different older and more mature people's relationship, and be like, hey, how do you act within these things? And you could even ask them that. And I think just the proactivity in that, and making sure that you are fulfilling your role as the boyfriend or as the girlfriend to help them grow closer to Christ, because that's ultimately why we're together, or the relationship is happening, so that we can grow closer to God with each other, in the hopes that one day that they'll get married.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think that just needs to be more taken seriously in high school. And I think there's students in our youth ministry that do a really good job of that, but just keep pushing to be more Christ-like.
Putting God in the middle of it.
Yeah.
That's a place where I'm like, I was told, and this was not like the best. I know this wasn't a good like thing, but my old youth pastor told me once. He said, I didn't pray with my wife until we were married.
Wow.
And so for me, and at such a young age, hearing that when I was already in a relationship, this was like right when I was getting into a relationship. I got my first like real relationship when I was like 15, and so for me that was a big deal, because that took on one whole relationship, that took on another whole relationship, and luckily it only has taken on about half of my relationship with Sam. But it was something that, man, because when you're not praying together, when you're not talking about the Word together, because it's an intimate thing, right? And that's so true. I wouldn't say on your first date, you go tell them about every mistake you've ever made in your entire life, and you tell your entire testimony, you cry on your first date. I don't think that's, and I've seen that at GCU a lot, where people have gotten together and like they're like, well, let's talk about testimonies, and then there's a bunch of people crying in GCBC because they're all talking to their friends that they just met yesterday, and they're all sobbing because they're telling their testimony. But there's a time and place for it, and as your relationship matures, and as you're in a relationship for longer, I've just realized that putting Christ in the middle of it, whether that means praying together every day, whether that means reading the Word together, doing a Devo together. I've had to rework that, and if you don't put that in your relationship at the beginning, you're gonna have to make up for lost time. And so that's a really good.
And I've heard a lot of that. Like a lot of people in church ministry were like, if you're dating in high school, don't read the Bible with your girlfriend. Don't read it with your boyfriend. And that's kind of like frustrated me a little bit, because they're like, oh, that's too intimate. But spiritual intimacy, not physical intimacy, but spiritual intimacy, I think would be an important thing in dating, within the eyes of, I'm dating to get married to this person.
Absolutely.
Because the whole point of dating is wanting to marry someone, but there's boundaries of there may not be that physical intimacy, but there needs to be that spiritual intimacy to make sure that Christ is in the center of your relationship.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's really good. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about dating culture right now? I think when we look at dating culture, we see like sleeping around. If we want to be honest, we see sleeping around is encouraged. We see that like, oh, if we're not having sex, or if we're not, progressing at this level, like we're doing it wrong. Or I think like culture is trying to shape what the next generation thinks about relationships. So how do you guys think Gen Z should approach relationships in light to that?
Yeah.
Well, if it's okay, I'd love to speak a little bit on behalf of the singleness side of that, if that's all right. Because I've been single for a long time. I didn't get into my first relationship until I was about 25. And then my current relationship is only my second relationship. And so I've been single for a while. And I think the best part about being single is knowing who you are with Christ.
Yeah.
Just you and Jesus. Figuring out your passions, figuring out what you love, the spiritual intimacy between you and Christ, like without someone else. Because not only do you obviously figuring that out on your own is so intimate, is so powerful, but being able to add someone to that later on is such a blessing, right? But being able to have that strong relationship with God, before being in a relationship with someone is just really healthy. And personally, I think everyone needs to be single for a certain amount of time in their life.
You heard that, high schoolers.
High schoolers, even junior hires. Come on. I mean, it is just such a sweet and special time to be with the Lord. And my singleness was, don't get me wrong, it was freaking hard. It was so hard. It's tough to understand, God, why? Why am I in this, right? But through those years, I got to travel. I got to go on fun trips. I got to do things with my friends. I got to, not that I'm out here spending a lot of money, but I got to spend money on things that I enjoy. Obviously being wise. But being able to do fun things, right? But also having the freedom, having the freedom. I've realized with my relationship, I love it so much and it is so fun. But my time is definitely more restricted, right? Because you want to spend time with your significant other. You are investing in that relationship. They're investing in you, right? You're investing in each other. That takes time. And sometimes that pulls you away from other things. And there's been times where I'm like, oh man, I haven't spent time with God today. That's more important. I need to spend time with the Lord, and you can't neglect that. And so one thing that I just really want to encourage Gen Z with is that, one, it's okay to not be in a relationship. It is important to have time with just you and God as a single person. And even if you are in a relationship, nothing is bad. Nothing is bad about that. Nothing is bad about going on dates and trying to meet someone to who you would want to marry someday, right? But just keep in mind that your time spent with the Lord is the most important. And if that's being neglected in any way, then you need to take a pause and take a step back and start spending time with Him in prayer, in worship, whatever that looks like for you. Because that was probably the best years that I could have for myself leading up to being in a relationship. Because now it's that much more healthy, and it's that much more, just feeling that much more at peace going into a future with someone. So
that's so good.
That's really good.
It was more formative. You were able to build something up, and then when somebody came in, they got to just join.
Absolutely.
That's so good. What do you think?
I think the most important thing for Gen Z is kind of piggybacking off of this, is you're not missing anything out that God hasn't planned for you. I think we get so obsessed with, I'm missing out on dating somebody in high school or dating someone in middle school or whatever that looks like. And we think and we get obsessed with, I want that godly centered relationship, while you're not a godly centered person at that time. And you need to be the person that you want to marry ultimately, and you need to have the relationship with God that you want your significant other to have a relationship with God.
That's good.
And I think focusing on yourself and focusing on your relationship with Christ before all else is the most important thing that you could do. And when you're ready and when it is God's timing, then God will bring that person to you. And it may be earlier, it might be 16, you might be at the end of your junior year, or you might be 28. It's God's plan and it's God's will for us, and there's no point in rushing it, because especially with okay, here's the thing. Here's where we get into it. Okay, especially with Gen Z and that whole culture, with hookup culture and all that, ultimately, if you fall into that because you get obsessed with most of the worldly standards of dating and get obsessed with thinking of, how is this, like, I'm missing out, you're going to make mistakes that may not affect you right away, but you may do something with someone that you didn't want to. And then once you get into that godly centered relationship, then that will mess things up.
Say it, Ben.
And it might not mess things up to terminate the relationship, but it will make things a lot harder than God had originally planned. And I think that's where so many young people mess up, is doing the wrong things with the wrong people at the wrong times, and then they get into that relationship that they finally prayed for, and it's hard. And there has to be forgiveness, and if you're not ready for that kind of commitment, then don't rush it, because that's God's plan. Don't date around. Date with the intention of, I want to marry someone. Even if you're 12 years old. If you're 12 years old thinking, oh, I'm dating to marry someone, you probably won't date anyone for a while. But being intentional about that, you'll have so far less mistakes. And you won't go into that godly relationship with baggage.
That's good.
I think that's a really important thing that
That
was hard for, like, everyone my age. And I think
really
that's a hard Gen Z thing to be counterculture.
Yeah, I can speak into that because I was in a relationship where I messed up, where I dated around, and I ended up losing my virginity to a girl, and it was really manipulative, and it was really just like, but I was in such a bad place, and it's fun. It's interesting hearing both of your guys' perspectives, and then looking at it from this story. I wasn't built up enough in Christ for me to stand firm, because when the winds blew and the storm came, I seceded. I went with the flow. And when you're not built up in Christ, you're going to make those mistakes. When you don't know who you are, when you don't know how much you're loved by God, you're going to make those mistakes no matter where you think you're at with your walk with Christ. Like, no matter where you think you're at, if you're not actually built up, you're gonna succumb to the pressures of the world. And so one thing I want to tell Gen Z is, if you've messed up, and if you've taken something too far, God is never too far for you. God is gonna redeem you. God will restore you. God has already forgiven you. There's just so many ways that, man, I felt alone because I was like, God hates me. God doesn't like me anymore because I messed up, because I think, churches that have a really easy time saying that is the one sin. Do not do this. Sexual immorality, which it's repeated all throughout the Bible, and it's really important. And I believe the reason it's important is because you know how attached you get to somebody once that is gone. Once you've slept with them, once you've had sex with them, that is like part of you is gone. And we talk about like soul ties, and we talk about things that and we'll jump into this once we hit our relationship series at Heart Youth. But talk about shout out. You guys should come to our relationship series in March. It's going to be awesome. We're going to talk about this more in depth. But when those things come up, and when you sleep with somebody, like part of you is gone. Part of you becomes attached to that person, and and the Holy Spirit will break those. God is willing and able to break those chains. But I carried that into my relationship with Sam. And that's not, is that fair to her? No, it's not. And it's something that I wish I could look at her and say, hey, look at what I saved for you. Look, I was thinking about you this whole time. I was praying for you this whole time. And wasn't thinking about myself and my self-satisfaction. And here you go. Look at this gift that I get to give you. And because that is not there anymore, we have to take so many more steps, because I'm coming in with baggage. I'm coming in with so much more than what she's coming in with, because she saved herself, and I didn't. And so when you walk into a relationship with that, the one that you're going to end up, I'm going to end up getting married to this girl, and we're not going to be done talking about it. It's going to be something that we are going to have to talk about for probably the rest of our lives, because of one because of one relationship in high school.
Yeah.
And so I want to end it like this. What do you guys think is one tip that you want to give to Gen Z? Like, what is one way to do relationships well with Gen Z?
Yeah, I would say, inviting other people into your relationship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Other
That's good.
people that you love and trust, older people, mentors, youth leaders, even your parents, like people that have gone before you, that have been married, that have been together for a long time. By no means is any relationship perfect, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows everything, doesn't have all the answers. But if you go to people that have been together for a while, or that their truth is based off of God's word, then I guarantee they're going to have incredible insight.
Yeah.
And so if there are people that you know and trust, bring them into it so they can be praying for you.
Yeah.
You know, I know that when relationships are covered in prayer, God is going to give you the wisdom and the discernment that you need to move forward in a relationship.
Yep.
You know, whether it's a relationship you should be in or not be in, God's going to make that clear to you, right? And if it's something that is worth pursuing, that is Christ-centered, that God's going to give you what you need. But don't think that we can do life alone, because we can't, right?
Yeah.
We can't do life alone. And so you have to invite other people in. And I just think, you know, you don't want to keep things in the dark either. I know sometimes it can be hard because there's things that are, but this is private. It's just between me and my significant other, right? And that's something that you probably have to pray through, right? With you and your significant other. But if you have other people that are praying for you, then those things can be healed, right? Instantly. And God can do wonders. God can do miracles before you even talk about engagement and marriage, and those things can be healed before that time even comes.
That's good.
That's incredible.
It's so good.
So
good. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think a big advice, I kind of have two, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. But my first one is kind of piggybacking off of what I said earlier, is don't obsess about a relationship. Don't worry about, who am I going to date? Who am I? Like, have crushes. Like, that's natural. Like, that's fine. But have it to where your prayer life is the center. And if your prayer life is the center, then God will show you who you need to go after. And God will give you those desires. And the second thing is piggybacking off of what she said. Just piggybacking off of everyone.
Love it.
But it's similar to go to other people, like mentors, like don't have your relationship alone. But I would even say, if you are coming into a relationship with baggage, with struggles before that, go to someone, a godly couple, with one of the person had baggage. Like, let it be known to where there's a similarity in environment or in the culture of your relationship, and go to them and be like, hey, what did you do? What happened with you? If you're going into relationship with baggage, like, I don't mean to throw you under the bus here,
please.
but say if a guy goes into a relationship with baggage and the girl was better about it and she saved herself, they could go to John and be like, how did you be honest with her about her? How did you pray through it? And the girl could go to Sam and be like, hey, how did you pray through this? What did it look like when you first found out or whatever? And just being open and honest and looking after that mentorship, as Alyssa was saying.
That's good. I think so often Gen Z just wants to be in a relationship. You kind of hit on this. Gen Z just wants to be in a relationship, just to be in a relationship. And I think so many times, I knew that when I was in high school, I'm still Gen Z. So like, I'm in a weird place where I get to lead, like where I get to lead Gen Z, but also I'm in Gen Z. So I like kind of get it. I kind of don't. But it's like they do some TikTok dances. I'm like, bro, what is going on? But
do you lean more Gen Z or millennial?
I think I lean more millennial.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. What do you think?
I kind of think so.
You think?
Same.
Do you think I lean more millennial? I've been told that I act older than I actually am. Yeah. And so,
I can see both.
But there's kids in my high school that I still have on Snapchat that are like partying, like, and I'm just like, that's.
I'm a big believer. By the time you're 22, you got to get rid of Snapchat. It's got to go.
You said 22?
Honestly, babe,
I'm a big
I
believer.
kinda
There's a little
agree.
gap
Yeah.
between if you're 26 and you have Snapchat. What are you doing?
What are you doing with Snapchat?
You're at your full-time construction job. Hey guy, like snapping yourself.
Dang.
I kind of agree with you.
Alyssa, do you still have Snapchat?
Okay, so I only have it. I don't use it. I only have it because of the
For the
memories.
memories. Yeah.
That's it, or else I would
Yeah.
delete that in a heartbeat.
That's
I
so
actually
true.
kind of hate
For
it.
sure. Okay.
I'm being honest. Anyways, off
Yeah.
topic. Sorry, John.
That's so funny. Yeah. I think you have to self-evaluate. I think Gen Z needs to understand when they're ready to be in a relationship. They need to be self-aware of when. This goes for anybody. You need to be self-aware of when you're ready to be in a relationship. And if you're not ready to self-sacrifice, don't even think about being in a relationship.
Oof,
If you're
say
not
it.
ready to sacrifice yourself,
Yeah.
if you're not ready to die to yourself, then you shouldn't be in a relationship.
Yeah.
So
We
good.
look at the Bible and we think about what people had done for relationships, and we see, man, dudes chopping off Philistine foreskins, and we see a guy working for 14 years for a girl.
Yeah.
And we talk about Snapchat, but if you're not willing to unadd every girl on your Snapchat and you're a guy, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
If you're not willing to just be ready to take the steps that it takes to be in a relationship that's not self-serving,
Yeah.
but instead selfless, you shouldn't be in a relationship.
It's good.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, I had to learn that.
That's
I
good.
learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
I learned that, man, this isn't about me. This is
Yeah.
about we. This is about our collective unit.
Yeah.
This is about Sam and I. This is about the family that we're gonna build together. This isn't about me. This isn't
Yeah.
about what's gonna please me. This isn't about, man, what do I want to do? This is about what we want to do. And when you start to think about yourself as that, when you start to think about, not in a weird dependent way,
Yeah.
but in a way where you're saying, I'm an individual and I'm dating an individual, and we are going to come together and we are going to be a family. We're going to leave our family and we're going to cleave to our spouse.
Yeah.
Then you're and you have your spouses or your significant others best interest at hand.
It's good.
Man, you're going to see the blessing of it. You're
That's
going to
good.
see the return of, man, instead of me just looking at myself and looking what I want, I'm going to look at my spouse and their needs, or look at my boyfriend and my boyfriend or my girlfriend and their needs. I'm going to look at my fiance and their needs.
Yeah.
Once you get to that point where you're ready to self-sacrifice, I think that's when you're ready to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
And when you're close to Christ, and when you're in a point where you're ready to be married. I think, man, I see so many relationships end at high school, or end when somebody goes off to college, or end during college, or whatever, because they don't see themselves getting married.
Yeah.
Sam is the only person I've ever seen myself marrying, and I think part of the reason is because God was readying me for it.
Yeah.
There was a point where I'm like, why am I dating? And I'm 15. I can't even drive to a date. I can't even. My parents have to drop me off at the mall for our weird walk around the mall and hold hands kind of date. Like, like that's not that there's anything bad. And I know a lot of people that have been dating since high school, and there's something sweet about high school sweethearts, but there's also a part of it that it's like, man, if you're not actively ready to get married, or you're not in a place where you can see yourself marrying that person, then you shouldn't be in a relationship.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I think Gen Z sees it as, this is end all be all. And I think it's cool because I got to just talk to somebody about this and say, at your age, that made me feel really old though. At your age, I was in a relationship that ended with me getting cheated on. And then the next relationship, I lost my virginity, and then I got cheated on.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then there were girls that I had dated after that. And then there's Sam, my fiance.
Yeah.
7 years later.
Wow.
It'll be 8 years. Will be from the time that I first started dating when I was 15 and a half, which is like a sophomore, junior in high school, to the time where I'm getting married. And so many like people I had talked to and relationships I had been in, all that to say that, man, that this relationship that you're thinking about getting in high school, that this person isn't the end all be all.
Yeah.
You know, the person that, and I hope, man, for hurt's sake and for lessons' sake, that whatever person that our students pursue or are being pursued by I so hope that that's their spouse.
Yeah.
And I so hope that they have a healthy relationship. And I pray and I hope that, man, these relationships are built on Christ and that they get to, and they last so many different struggles. But I think there are so many times where our students will see that relationship and they'll see a person that they're so obsessive over, like you were saying, that they'll be willing to give up their morals, that they'll be willing to give up anything just to be in a relationship because they think it's the end all be all. And at the end of the day, it's not. At the end of the day, you could be single for, man, you could be in so many different relationships over 8 years, man. You could be single till you're Alyssa's age and find a meaningful... Hold on. Scratch that.
Once you're old,
keep it.
20 years old,
I dare you.
once you're 50 years old, just like Alyssa.
But here's to say, it's okay. I totally get what you're saying.
You knew what I meant. You know what I meant. Round it up.
But
You're
like,
called.
You're called. Let's
he's digging
end with
himself
the
in a hole
tagline, bro.
right now. No, there is honestly like so much time in the world, and I think no matter what season we're at in life, we're always looking for the next big thing to happen. You know what I mean? Like, we're never satisfied.
Yeah.
And so it's like when you're in high school, you're ready to graduate. When you're in college, you're ready to graduate.
Yep.
You're ready to find the job.
Yep.
You're ready to be in a relationship. You're ready to get married. You're ready to buy a house. You're ready to have one kid, the next kid. You know, it just keeps going, right?
Yeah.
It's like, when are we going to actually pause and breathe and just allow God to move?
That's
Wow.
good.
And do his thing, you know, because it is so out of our control.
Yeah.
We cannot control what's going to happen to us, and we just have to trust him.
Yeah.
Right? His
So
timing
good.
is the best. And
That's
so, like, don't get me wrong, it's been hard to wait. It's been really, really hard. But if I, like, you know, if I married, like, someone else, or if me and Diego had met 5 years previous, it wouldn't have been the right timing.
Yeah.
You know, and it could have gone completely wrong.
That's good.
And so, looking at it from that perspective, I know that God's hands is on it, like 100%. I've been praying for my future husband since I was a freshman in high school.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's a long time, and I'm
Yeah.
28. So, like, I am like fully believing that he is like just invested in this relationship for me and for anybody that is in so much prayer for their relationship, for their future spouse. And that is just the most important thing, is never too early to start praying for your future spouse.
Yeah.
Never ever too early.
Say it again.
Like, be in so much prayer about it. And if you like find yourself just being super anxious or like struggling with being single or like waiting or whatever, like, there's so many people that will talk to you. Like, I'm available. Like, there are other people that I know and that are going through the same thing and that knows what it feels like. But nothing's wrong with that. You know, you have so much time, and like, God's got you.
Yeah.
God's got you.
That's
good.
so good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Man,
Dude.
that's episode 3.
Let's
go.
go.
Alyssa, thank you for joining us. Sorry for
Of course.
kind of roasting you on
No.
accident.
Keep it in. Keep it in.
I'll keep it. I'll keep it
That's
in.
the funny
I'll keep
part.
it in. That's
It's all good.
that'll be the part that we post on Instagram.
What's
Like, when you're single, like Alyssa. Hey, all I'm saying is, if you guys are single and you want to preach the singleness message in our relationship series, I got in a relationship, literally, I think 2 months after that, and then Alyssa got in a relationship. Man,
that year, was it? Because did I do it in 2022?
yeah,
Preach it? So late.
Same year.
Same year.
Wow.
Later
Same
in the
year
year, but same year.
Was in a relationship. So all I'm saying is it works. And so
that poor person that has to do it every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Hey, bro. I was my first year as an intern. They're like, "Hey, can you preach the singleness message?" I'm like, man.
Just praise
was
God,
like,
it's
sure.
not me, you guys.
Yeah.
Praise God.
I
I was
know.
very happy about that.
"Yeah, right.
It's
It's none
close
of
call.
us.
Close call.
None of us.
It's none of us. Let's go.
Let's go.
Come on. Let's go. Well, hey, let's close it out.
Yeah.
Let's do it. It's okay to not be okay. You're not alone.
You're called, chosen, equipped, and loved. We'll see you next episode.
See you next episode.
Let's go.